All right, here we are, Dubai, going from our net zero nuclear summit to the actual COP venue here. Tyson, you're on a panel and took in the proceedings. Thoughts about the event?
It's exceeded expectations. I didn't expect the announcement, triple nuclear by the year 2050, 22 countries. That wasn't something that I had the foresight to anticipate, and so it was pretty amazing to hear that. The HALU announcement was also pretty awesome, and then the people, as ever. It's really cool to have so many like-minded folks. In some cases, not like-minded folks, but still finding common ground. That gives me hope, and I guess bearing the lead, the number of young voices out there, pushing forth a nuclear future, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we had Will Shackle from Australia, advocates from multiple sub-Saharan African countries, Poland. Yeah, there's a lot of good folks out there today. Tripling nuclear, is that going to be enough?
No, I don't think it will. But I think it's a hell of a start. And I think, 2 years ago, who would have anticipated that, Diablo Canyon, Pickering, Byron, Dresden, you name it, number of plants being saved. I think there is indeed a nuclear renaissance underway. And I think saying we're going to triple by 2050, that's a great start. And we shouldn't poo-poo it. We shouldn't get into the, whataboutism or buttism. We should say, hey, that's great. Let's celebrate it. Let's talk it up and do the press releases and all that good stuff. Then let's revisit it in a few months and talk about what more can we do.
Kirsten, as the maybe one of the youngest people in the room, maybe only surpassed by Will, because you're 20 years old, right?
I'm 20, yes.
So you're gonna see the worst ravages of climate change here. Yeah. So you obviously this triple nuclear thing was leaked last week, and you made a video about it. What are your thoughts on this pledge?
Yeah, it was exciting to see it happen in person. The way that it made it seem when we found it online is that at first it sounded like the announcement itself, and then we kind of looked into it a little bit more, and it said, this is unreleased information. Like, maybe people aren't supposed to know about this. And watching it happen in person, watching all of the representatives from different countries on stage, and Dr. Huff talking about it was just a really awesome thing to witness. And then the formal declaration, everything they had prepared, all of the thought and deliberation that had gone into this idea. I can't wait for plans to begin, for that infrastructure to be planned, to roll out, and I'm excited to see all of that new energy hit the grid.
So Madison, from kind of international political economy perspective, this sort of intergovernmental collaboration between countries on large infrastructure projects. Have you seen any precedent with that? And do you see any potential pitfalls? Can we get more countries to sign up?
There is a precedent for international collaboration on projects, namely in the form of technological innovation. But I think a biggest pitfall is when national governments don't get on board with policy to support these international agreements. So, a pledge to triple nuclear energy by 2050 is great, but if you don't have the industrial policy to back it up, or if you don't have the state policy that removes moratoriums or supports actual industry, then these agreements mean nothing. Talk is cheap. And so, a lot of the times we see these statements come out and we think, wow, this is going to be so great. And then 5 years down the line, we're like, wait, wasn't it at COP28 that we decided we would triple nuclear by 2050? So now it's time for state governments, federal governments to really put the money where their mouth is and start investing into these companies, public-private partnerships, really putting a backing to some of these words.
One thing I was surprised by, there were no Central or South American countries on that list.
Yes.
And I know for a fact, because I know the energy minister of El Salvador, and they are super interested in advanced nuclear. I'm sure they would sign it in a heartbeat. And I hope there is a way for other countries to hop on the bandwagon, and then there's continued press about it. I know like a couple countries joined after the news release came out, but I haven't seen any actual articles detailing that. And all of the original ones still have the list of 22. Tyson, you know a lot more about media narratives than I do.
Well,
What do you think?
I thought, how many did you say?
For the renewables?
For renewables?
I think it was 118. It might be 110.
I wonder how many of the what the totality of that the energy, sustainable energy, renewable energy, whatever you want to call it. I wonder how much of that is going to be reliable energy, with the totality of that's going to be compared to what'll happen if we triple our nuclear. I think one thing that maybe Generation Atomic could do, or someone else, is put together a cheat sheet for journalists on what capacity means, what that looks like. So when someone says that we're going to do X with renewable energy, what that would look like compared to we're going to do Y with nuclear energy. And that way they can actually look at the math side by side and see what it means.
Yeah.
And maybe do a visual cue, like you said. I think Isabel was talking about gummy bears. What's the comparative model? Hamburgers. You pick it.
Is that something you've struggled with in your filmmaking, on how to break down these kind of wonky energy subjects in a way that people can understand quickly?
Yeah, and I think that's one place where Robert Bryce is incredibly helpful. He has this phrase, compared to what? And so we always try and do that. With Juice, the first film, it was the average American uses the average Indian uses less electricity a year than a typical American refrigerator, and then we ran with that. And I think anytime you can compare it to something tangible, to something people can see and feel and know and understand, it just makes the understanding so much better for folks like me that struggled with math and science. I need visual cues. Explain it for me, dumb it down for me, so that anyone can understand it, so that I can understand it, so my 75-year-old mom can understand it. 74-year-old mom can understand it, and or my 17-year-old son could understand it. I think that's critical.
So Kirsten, you're a triple major in environmental sciences, wildlife conservation, biology, and political science, which means you're probably taking a lot of classes that would have thoughts about what you saw today at that conference, and your classmates might have some opinions about it. If they had been here today, what do you think some of their takeaways might be? What kind of questions might they still have?
Yeah, when I first joined Generation Atomic, I was a freshman in college. I was searching for internships. I found this one. It looked good. It had the word atomic in it. And I was like, okay, what are they trying to say there? Look it up. It's a nuclear organization. I was like, I don't really know much about nuclear power at all, actually. I texted my environmental friends, the ones that are really into it. They're on the streets with signs and everything. And I was like, what do you think about nuclear power? And they're like, bad. Nuclear power, bad. And I was like, how much do you know about it? And they're like, I just know it's bad. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna maybe do my research into nuclear power before I decide if this organization aligns with my values. And I did that research. I found from all of that time that I spent that I don't think it's just bad. Long story short, I interned with the organization. I've been here for 2 years now, and nuclear power is a very big part of my life now. I'm able to bring a lot of insight that I learned from various conferences, that I learned from making educational videos, into the classroom. I have found myself in the past almost educating my professors about it. As bad as that sounds, they really don't know much about it. They have been teaching maybe environmental science for 25 years, but energy is not a big part of the curriculum, I've noticed, at least not in any of the programs I'm studying. I think that if people that I study with, even the leaders that I look up to, were here today, they would have a completely different perspective on how we have to go about the climate crisis and nuclear power, generally speaking.
So I'm guessing throughout your academic experience, you've had some opportunities to speak about this topic in classes. And what's the reaction been like when you've brought up the topic of nuclear energy in some of your classes?
Yeah, I haven't spoken to you about this actually, but about a week and a half ago, I attended the the university sustainability dinner, and I didn't realize how exclusive and important this was until I got there.
Okay.
I was at a table speaking with faculty, and kind of the prompt of the dinner was, what are your ideals, what are your plans for the university on a 10-year scale and a 25-year scale? And on a 25-year scale, just being around discussions about energy constantly, I said our university needs to go net zero by 2040 without a doubt. Like, that should be the goal. And they were like, yeah, we agree, like, let's build solar, let's build wind. And I was like, solar and wind is awesome, except Rhode Island is so dense. It's the second most densely populated state after New Jersey. We don't have the space for solar. And offshore wind, I think it's not a problem. I think it can be a great solution, but there's already been a lot of controversy about that. And I said, what if?
And you know, we do have some friendly disagreements on offshore wind, but we'll have another video about that.
We do. Yes, I said, we have a great engineering program, but we don't have a nuclear engineering program. What if we put a microreactor on campus, completely revamp the nuclear engineering program at the university, have students work there and learn how to operate it, and that could pretty much cover our energy needs, nearly. And the people at my table were like, what did you just say? A micro-reactor? Like, they didn't even know what that was.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, it's like this many megawatts, and it's not too complicated usually. They can be modular. You kind of put them together like Legos. And the shock that I was met with, that these people who are, you know, quite established in their field have never considered this as an option, was alarming to me. I was explaining to them the difference between fission and fusion, why fusion isn't here yet, why it's not commercial, and just like the experience of explaining to adults who I normally look up to and learn from was very moving.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up there. Awesome car interview. Lots of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. That was cool. And thank you, Tyson.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.